Hey, it's Mike from the Run Testers. In this video, I am going to be talking about two watches. The first is the Garmin Forerunner 45 and the second is the Garmin Forerunner 55. Now, essentially the 55 is the replacement, or will end up being a replacement for the 45, but both watches are still available at the moment. So what I wanted to do is kind of take a look at these kind of, I guess what you would call the kind of affordable, almost entry-level watches in Garmin's range, what they like to run with, what features you're getting, what features you're losing by going for one over the other. And yeah, just give you a sense of my experience and what it's like to run with these two watches. So yeah, this is my take on the Garmin Forerunner 55 and how it compares to the Forerunner 45. So in terms of design, these two watches essentially live quite similar on your wrists. They're small, light, comfortable watches. I've had no real issues in terms of discomfort or wanting to take them off really. So from that perspective, if you like a small kind of running watch, you don't like a big bulky kind of Phoenix style watch, then you're well served on either of these watches. In terms of the materials you've got here, so they both use kind of polymer cases, which is kind of pretty standard on a lot of Garmin watches. You've got silicone straps and they both can be removed, but they can be removed in slightly different ways. So on the 55, you've got this kind of simple pin mechanism, which you kind of see on the newer Garmin watches, so a lot easier to remove the strap. On the Garmin Forerunner 45, you're going to have to get like a little screwdriver out to kind of remove the straps. And what that also means is with a different strap style is you get a little bit less flex around where the strap meets the screen, whereas on the 55, it's all kind of, very kind of stretchy and flexible. So in terms of sizes, you have got, so the 45 also comes in a 45S, so that's 39 millimeters. The 45 is a 42 millimeter case. On the 55, you're just getting one size, so that is a 42 millimeter one. So the same size as the Forerunner 45 essentially. And you're getting the same size screen, you're getting the same resolution. It's a transflective display, so like they are, on a lot of Garmin watches, that's all about improving that visibility outside. Maybe you're not getting the highest quality kind of vibrancy and colours, but you're getting something that's easy to view kind of in most conditions. And that's why Garmin uses that screen. So essentially those are the kind of key things from a design perspective. They charge using the kind of, now that Garmin have gone to kind of a more standard kind of charging cable, they both use the same cable on that front. They are waterproof up to 50 meters depth as well, so they are suitable for swimming. I've swum with both these watches. I kind of jumped in the shower with them, no issues on that front. So for me, design-wise, pretty similar in terms of what you get here. If you like the idea of having straps that you can quickly remove, then the 55 is the one that you want. Ultimately though, case size, the screen quality, the kind of the buttons, physical buttons, and how that kind of feels to kind of use, and just the size of the watches as well are just very similar. So that would be kind of the reason to go for the 45, essentially because you're getting a lot of what you get on the 55 on the 45 already. So in terms of key features or key running features, let's talk about what these watches have in common. So you're getting the same GPS support. It's the same in terms of the heart rate monitor technology. You can pair foot pods and external chest strap monitors to these watches as well. You've got compatibility with Garmin Coach on both, so you can kind of download running focused workouts and training. You can create interval training sessions. The running profiles are generally the same. You are getting the virtual running profile on the 55. And some of these profiles you have to add additionally from the Garmin Connect app. So there are a few areas where these watches start to separate in terms of those features. So the first being some of the kind of more advanced running features that you're getting on the 55 that you don't get on the 45. And these are the features that start to filter down from more expensive Forerunner watches. So the first being Pace Pro pacing strategies, which is kind of based around kind of mapping and navigation, which you don't get on either of these watches. But what Garmin has allowed you to do is create these profiles or route profiles on the app that can be synced to the watch, and you're essentially following the splits that you need to from that profile. So you can't see the maps or the navigation, but you can still follow that strategy on the watch. You're also getting things like the race predictor. You are also getting daily suggested workouts. You're getting access to the recovery advisor. You've also got a finish time feature, which kind of lets you see, based on your your previous running, how quick you might finish a specific distance. So from that point of view, you've got a lot more advanced features, running features on the 55. I think the other thing worth mentioning is the interface that you've got, or the UI that you've got on these watches. So the 55 kind of adopts the kind of newer kind of widget kind of style user interface, which you can kind of scroll through and see all your different bits of information. On the 45, you've kind of got dedicated screens for your different features. Now, you know, I prefer what you get on the 55 in terms of that experience, but I think on the 45 it's not too bad at all. You're just getting the latest version on the 55. So those are the kind of key differences in terms of running features. Definitely getting a little bit more in terms of the advanced features on the 55 compared to the 45, but the core features between the two you still kind of get across, so you're still getting a quite consistent experience across these two watches. So in terms of general running experience, I have trained with these, I have raced with these watches, and the overall feeling is that they feel very similar to run with. It really is about, after you've run, what you get on these watches, and that's when you're getting a bit more on the 55. But when you're out running, they're very similar in terms of being able to absorb that data, kind of navigating the screens during those runs, the comfort side of things, things like kind of visibility as well at night time and during the day when you're running. In terms of things like GPS performance, I think the 55 is slightly more accurate. I don't think there's a huge amount in it. I think the GPS lock-on is a bit quicker as well on the 55. That's what I found generally. The 45 kind of kept me hanging around a little bit longer. And in terms of heart rate monitor performance and kind of steady runs, I think these heart rate monitors are fine for that. And they kind of served up similar data against a heart rate monitor. It's when you're doing high intensity stuff, you really do need to grab a chest strap monitor. It's kind of across the board with Forerunners, and it doesn't really change on these two watches either. And that will give you the most accurate data, and that will kind of feed into any other features that kind of rely on that heart rate monitoring as well. So obviously you don't have any mapping and navigation features here, so that's not something you need to worry about. And yeah, generally a similar kind of experience that I found on these watches. Nothing that really separates them during the run. Performance-wise, in terms of data, I think you're getting a little bit more than 55. But ultimately, I think these are solid running watches generally to run with. And data-wise, not that far off, maybe a little bit more accurate on the Forerunner 55. So in terms of battery life, the raw numbers say that you're going to get more battery life on the Forerunner 55. So how much more are you going to get? Well, essentially, Garmin is saying you're going to get up to 2 weeks in kind of smartwatch mode and up to 20 hours GPS battery life. Now on the 45, you're getting the promise of kind of 7 days smartwatch mode and 13 hours GPS battery life. Now, based in terms of my experience and kind of using the watches, what I would say is these watches are good for a week's worth of training, a solid week's worth of training. Even on the 55, I would say, you know, that 2 weeks feels a little bit optimistic for me. I think maybe you're probably getting 7 to 10 days. Sometimes I was getting maybe less, and that's kind of regular tracking, kind of doing some other non-running activities as well. And that's kind of having notifications enabled as well too. On the 45, it's a similar story. I think, you know, you're going to get around a week's worth of battery life on here, and kind of, you know, a sample, you know, an hour's run, it would be less than 5% kind of drop off on both these watches. So from that point of view, I don't think there's a huge enough difference to say that the battery life is superior on the 55 to the 45. I just think if you're looking for something that's going to give you a week's worth kind of training and cover you for that, and you won't have to kind of grab that charger, you might have to grab it quicker on the 45 and the 55, but I don't think there's going to be a huge amount in it. So if you want to watch with a week's worth of battery life, both of these watches are going to essentially serve you well. So should you go for the Forerunner 45 or the Forerunner 55? Now, what I'll say is generally that these watches have kind of been fine, absolutely fine to kind of run with generally. No major issues to kind of really report. The kind of core running experience is very good. I think on the 55, I think things like the GPS kind of pickup, signal pickup is a little bit quicker. You're maybe getting a little bit more battery life, but I don't think a huge amount. The 45, I think if you want a no frills kind of running experience, you know, you just want to go out and run and track and have your metrics there. I still think it's a really strong option. You're going to probably find it for kind of £30–40 cheaper than what you're going to get on the 55. And I still think that is a good price for a watch that I think is really solid still. And, you know, it has a lot of the same characteristics design-wise with the 55. Now, with the 55, I think it's really about how much you care about this kind of extra running focus features. So things like Pace Pro strategies, which I think is a really strong feature. And it's nice to see that it's on a cheaper Garmin Forerunner as well. So things like the recovery advisor, daily suggested workouts, race predictor, those are really nice features to have on the on this watch, and it's what, you know, essentially you're paying more for, I think. But if you don't care about that stuff, I think the 45 watch will serve you well. If you're just kind of looking for kind of an entry level watch and don't want to kind of, they're not fussed about those extra things. But if you do want those things and you like the idea of, you know, being able to kind of better structure or strategize for races, or think a little bit more about how you train, you know, what you do in training, then that's what I would say you go for the 55 and you'll pay the more money for. So yeah, essentially for me, I don't think it's kind of a clear-cut thing. I think that, you know, the 45 will serve a lot of people really well, I think. And I think the 55 is really about, you're running, you want to start looking a little bit more deeper into terms of what your data means and how you can better utilize that data as well. So that would be a reason to go for that one. So yeah, that's my kind of take on the how the Forerunner 55 compares to the 45 and which one I think you should go for. So there you have it. That is our take on how the Garmin Forerunner 45 compares to the Garmin Forerunner 55. Now, if you've got any questions about the testing or anything else about these watches, let us know in the comments below. As always, like and subscribe, hit that little bell to find out about our latest videos. And yeah, we'll see you for the next Run Testers video.